Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, Mike Lindell sent me a note yesterday. He has a special for the 6-piece towel set, $25 when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com, use promo code Joey. You'll get the $25 offer on the 6-piece towel set, and I promise you, these will be the most comfortable, the most absorbent towels that you own. mypillow.com, use promo code Joey, get the 6-piece towel set for just $25. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Breaking news over the weekend, the Israeli military said that it rescued 4 hostages in a special operations in central Gaza on Saturday. The Gaza Health Ministry said that at least 274 Palestinians died and nearly 700 others were wounded, while the IDF approximated that fewer than 100 casualties happened. We have the latest for you on this story. Appearing on CNN's State of the Union, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem said that former President Trump choosing a woman to be his running mate would be, quote, beneficial to him. Citing recent polls, Ms. Noem repeatedly said that a woman could help Trump win in November, but refused to say if she should be that woman. Meanwhile, Representative James Clyburn of South Carolina brushed off recent polling that suggests former President Trump support among black male voters is rising, arguing that this voting demographic has not left the fold, he said, of Democrats and President Joe Biden. So what do the latest polls say? CBS News YouGov released a poll yesterday, found that Trump received 50% support nationally among likely voters, with Biden receiving 49%. If you go to the battleground states, 50% of likely voters selected Joe Biden, with 49% backing Trump. We have the details for you on this latest CBS YouGov poll. The state newspaper had an interesting article over the weekend. Headlines: Republican infighting trickles down into misleading mailers. Do voters notice, they ask? And the article starts with this: liberal Republicans, too extreme, establishment puppets. And they write, potential voters may have been reading phrases like those plastered across campaign mailers, flyers, social media, and TV ads. The ads are primarily targeted at Republicans, but represent a larger battle trickling out of the State House and now into voters' hands. A faction of South Carolina's Republican Party has become increasingly active over the past 3 years as hardline conservative Freedom Caucus members and Republican House Caucus members clash over the way legislating should be done and the state's priority. The state goes on to write, the Freedom Caucus claims the South Carolina Republican Party is the most liberal Republican Party in the U.S., while those not in the Freedom Caucus accuse the group of antics and not serious legislating. The Freedom Caucus, a group of about 17 lawmakers, has shown that obstruction can be an unexpected source of power, while gaining influence that a number of Republican leaders are reluctant to acknowledge. The state says the friction will play out at the ballot box, where more than 30 seats featuring candidates align with each group. This fraction plays a major role in campaigning, politicos say, especially for the primaries. South Carolina Representative Mike Burns, a member of the Freedom Caucus, joins us later in the show to talk with us about some of the many mail pieces that have been sent to his constituents in South Carolina House District 17. Also, there are 7 candidates running for retiring 3rd District Jeff Duncan's congressional seat. South Carolina Representative Stuart Jones is one of them. He joins us in the last segment of today's show. So if you live in the 3rd District, stick around.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, you know, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan confirmed that innocent people were killed in the Israeli military operation that rescued 4 hostages over the weekend. The Israeli military said it rescued 4 hostages in a special operation in central Gaza on Saturday. CNN's Dana Bash asked Sullivan on State of the Union whether the U.S. can confirm how many people were killed in the operation.
We, the United States, are not in a position today to make a definitive statement about that. The Israeli Defense Forces have put out one number. The Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry has put out another number. But we do know this, Dana. innocent people were tragically killed in this operation. The exact number we don't know, but innocent people were killed, and that is heartbreaking. That is tragic. The president himself has said in recent days that the Palestinian people are going through sheer hell in this conflict because Hamas is operating in a way that puts them in the crossfire, that holds hostages right in the heart of crowded civilian areas, that puts military emplacements right in the heart of crowded civilian areas. But every day that we see more innocent people lost is another horrible, awful, tragic day. And you know, our hearts in the United States and across the world break for that. But there is only one answer to stop that from happening going forward, and that is a ceasefire and hostage deal that ends the military operations, brings the hostages home, and puts us in a position to give the Palestinians an opportunity for a better future for their people.
He said the Biden administration would prefer a ceasefire deal to get hostages home instead of military operations. He also said Biden, quote, thinks the best way to get all the hostages home is a deal where they're brought out diplomatically, where there's no need for military operations to get every last hostage out. The Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry said yesterday at least 274 Palestinians were killed in the operation and another 700 were wounded. The ministry also said that at least 37,000 have been killed in the ongoing fighting since the war began after Hamas attacked on October the 7th. Now, again, you have to keep in mind the source when they tell you that 274 Palestinian civilians were killed. Moving on to presidential politics, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem said that former President Trump choosing a woman to be his running mate would be beneficial to him. She was on CNN State of the Union when asked if Trump should pick a woman as his vice president. Noem, a vice presidential hopeful for Trump, told co-host Dana Bash that all polls tell him in the swing states that a woman on the ticket helps him win.
I've told President Trump over and over again, he needs to pick whoever helps him win. I have been loyal to him since the very beginning when he first started to run in 2016. He's told me his priority is picking a running mate that can govern on day one, that has been loyal to him, that has the experience and run businesses, knows how to be a CEO, but also supports him in his policies. I don't care. I love my job in South Dakota. I care about the fact that I want him to win, and he knows that I will do that. So I talked to him 3 times yesterday. I think he's doing great and fantastic. I'm proud of him. I've never seen anybody get out of bed and work as hard as this guy does just because he loves America. And he's got a lot of corrupt criminals and a lot of political enemies coming after him, and he still gets up and fights for the average everyday American. That makes me proud of him.
On that list that I just showed, there were 6 men and one woman. Women, particularly suburban women, I don't need to tell you, could play a big role in who gets elected in November. Should there be a woman on the ticket, A, and B, you said he just needs to pick somebody who will help him win. Would you help him win?
Well, all the polls tell him in these swing states that a woman on the ticket helps him win. The polls just say that. 1 in 4 Republican women haven't made up their minds because they want to have a woman talking to them about the issues they care about. And women aren't monolithic. They don't care about just one issue. They care about health care. They care about their children. They care about their futures. They care about having an opportunity to have a business and to have a career. And all of that is being threatened under Joe Biden. But yes, the women vote is extremely important. And I've spent the majority of my time here in Wisconsin talking to women and talking to those people that are independent and on the fringe, and they're leaning towards Donald Trump, but they also want to know that their perspective is going to be at the table when decisions are made.
So he should pick a woman.
They want to know that there's going to be people involved. I think that would be beneficial, according to the polling that I've seen for him in a lot of swing states, is that having a woman that is helping him campaign makes a difference. Listen, I could be home in bed or feeding my horses right now or rocking my grandbabies, but I'm in Wisconsin because I believe President Trump needs to win. His policies are right for America, and they're perfect for South Dakota. And I want him to win, and the polling tells me that he needs women out on the campaign trail carrying his message about how much he cares about them and their future, too.
By the way, the 7 that CNN posted on their graphic were North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, Senator Marco Rubio from Florida, Tim Scott from Florida as well, J.D. Vance from Ohio, Representative Byron Donalds from Florida as well, Representative Lee Stefanik, and former HUD Secretary Ben Carson. You know, Ben Carson's name keeps coming up quite often, doesn't it? You think Ben Carson would be a good choice? Send me a quick text message or email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Love to get your feedback on Ben Carson as Trump's vice president. Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Soon going to be 4 years ago that I started my journey with PhD weight loss and nutrition. I lost 30 pounds pretty quickly, I might add, and I've been able to maintain that for almost 4 years now. It'll be 4 years coming up in July. If this is the year that you have decided that you're going to get healthy, that you're going to lose that weight, that visceral fat that's so damaging around your waist, then now's the time to start. Let me encourage you to make that call today. 864-252-4925. Set up your initial consultation with PhD weight loss and nutritionist. Boy, am I glad that I met Dr. Ashley Lucas 4 years ago and that she got me on the right path to getting healthy. You're going to be able to do things that you may have thought you'd never be able to do again. Play with the kids, the grandkids, be able to hike and walk and maybe play a full 18-round hole of golf and be able to do it and not get so winded. Because when you take that excess weight off, you're just going to feel better. You're going to be able to focus. You're going to be able to sleep better. Your overall health is just going to be improved. 864-252-4925. Call, set up your initial consultation. Find them online at myphdweightloss.com. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers. On the text line, Dennis from Anderson writes, I do not think Hunter will be found guilty, but if he is, Joe Biden will pardon his son after the election. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what the Hunter Biden defense team comes up with as they reconvene in court starting today. We shall see. Paul writes on the text line, penny tax proposal again? Safety and congestion relief, a.k.a. bike lanes. Our traffic engineers are terrible. They tried this penny tax a few years ago, but it was clearly stated for bike lanes. Then another time saying it was for recreational, which equated to bike lanes. Give me specifics and maybe then I can support it. Maybe start with the real repair of Pleasantburg. Paul, thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. Look, it's like every few years there's an additional penny tax that's going to solve all of our problems, and it never does. How many times have you heard that? I mean, we just recently, a year, 2 years ago, put the final penny on, what was it, like 6 cents phased in over a number of years, and that was going to solve all of our road problems across the state. And now individual counties are wanting additional pennies here and pennies there. Ray writes, Fauci says it's an almost definite maybe that COVID didn't come from a lab leak. Yeah, and Epstein committed suicide. Oh, by the way, I've got some beach property for sale in Seneca. Have a great day, Joey. Now, Ray, you're pulling my leg, aren't you, about that beach property in Seneca? Faye says, Joey had just a note to remind folks who mailed ballots, they need to go to scvotes.gov to make sure that their ballot was received. Several weeks ago, this site was not working properly, but is now. Everybody please find time to vote. And Faye is right. You do need to vote. Plan time tomorrow. Early voting's over, so you can't vote today. Don't try today. But tomorrow, polls open at 7 a.m. and will be open all day through 7 o'clock tomorrow night. And if you're still not quite sure who to vote for or who's going to be on the ballot, again, the website that Faye just cited, scvotes.gov, you can go there, put in your name. They ask you for a couple other pieces of information. I think maybe your date of birth or something. And they'll show you a sample ballot. You'll be able to see exactly what races you're going to be voting for. Because we have a lot of races in different areas, and it depends on where you live. All South Carolina House seats are up. All South Carolina Senate seats are up. But you may live in a district where there's really not a contested primary. So that's why you need to look. But also, there are local races, county council seats. There are county-wide races, like for sheriff. A lot of counties around the upstate and western North Carolina are electing sheriffs. I know, like in Pickens County, there are 5 candidates running for sheriff in Pickens. There's Sheriff Hobart Lewis in Greenville has primary opposition. Sheriff Chuck Wright in Spartanburg has primary opposition. So you'll be voting in those. Also, some of the county elected offices, the clerk of court, the county treasurer, the coroner. So just go to scvotes.org so that you know exactly who's going to be on your ballot, so that you know who to be voting for. Thank you again, Faye. Texter says, if Joe Biden gives his son a pass, he'll lose all the black votes, blacks, poor whites, and Latino that are incarcerated for drugs. Joe is stuck. He is between a rock and a hard place, as we say, because I'm sure he does want to pardon his son, but there's no way he can pardon Hunter and survive that politically. No way. Texter says, Joey, if Trump is a convicted felon and not supposed to be around people with guns, how is the Secret Service going to protect him? Tony in Dacusville. Well, Tony, I can guarantee you that Secret Service, that's their job. And they'll find a way to protect him. I can almost assure you of that. Texter says, doesn't need to pardon Hunter. They've had plenty of time to make sure that he's acquitted. It's going to be interesting to see what the verdict is and what the response is either way. If Hunter is convicted, I can guarantee you there's going to be some Democrats and people on the left who are just going to still protest because they don't think he should even be tried. It's going to be interesting if he's not found guilty, what the response is. Our text of encouragement. Joel, thank you for this. Most great people have attained their greatest success just one step beyond their greatest failure. And I can agree with that because I've had some of my most disappointing situations followed by some of my biggest successes. So you can never give up. You can't get discouraged. I got another dog story for you. I know you're thinking that there's a dog story every day, but all these stories keep popping up. And the latest is about a loyal canine who recently saved its owner's life after literally running miles to guide others to the scene of a horrific crash in Oregon. In a Facebook post published June the 3rd, Baker County Sheriff's Office said that its deputies learned of the crash on Monday morning. Officials received a report about a vehicle over an embankment at the U.S. Forest Service near Road 39. The reporting party explained that his brother had not made it to his camp the day before. Family members located his vehicle this morning, but were unable to reach it due to the terrain. One of his dogs traveled nearly 4 miles to their camp, which alerted the rest of the party that something was wrong. Heart-stopping pictures show the truck flipped to its side in the middle of a rocky creek. Authorities used a high-line rope system to rescue the victim. The post stated, members of the Baker County Search and Rescue Ropes team set up their rescue equipment and began the difficult task of reaching Garrett. Once the team was able to reach him, they loaded and secured him in a rescue basket. He was connected to a high-line rope system and pulled across the ravine. An investigation found that Garrett was traveling with his 4 dogs when he failed to negotiate a curve, causing the vehicle to plummet off the embankment. Garrett was able to crawl approximately 100 yards from the vehicle where he spent the night. But the party would not have gone out searching for him had it not been for his loyal canine friend. I just love these types of stories. But I guess primarily because I love my puppy dogs, Jesse and Simon. Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. Tomorrow's the big day. For those of you who have not already voted early, you need to schedule some time on your calendar tomorrow to go to the polls. There are primary races and local county council races, number of sheriffs, countywide offices. All South Carolina House seats are on the ballot, South Carolina Senate seats, and there's some interesting primaries going on this year. Over the weekend, the state newspaper published an article. The headline was, Republican infighting trickles down into misleading mailers, do voters notice? And it leads with this paragraph, liberal Republicans to extreme, establishment puppets. Potential voters may have been reading phrases like those plastered across campaign mailers, flyers, social media, and TV ads. The ads are primarily targeted at Republicans, but represent a larger battle trickling out of the State House and now into voters' hands. On our guest line today, Representative District 17 in the South Carolina House, Representative Mike Burns. Welcome. Good morning. How are you, sir?
Oh, good morning, Joey. I hope you and your listeners had a good weekend, and I'm glad to be on your show today.
Well,
thank you.
It's always a pleasure to have you on. I appreciate your time. Now, Representative Burns, you have been the target of some of these mailers that the state newspaper wrote about over the weekend. You're a member of the South Carolina Freedom Caucus. You're being challenged in the GOP primary, voting tomorrow. A number of members of the Freedom Caucus have reached out to me, and you're crying foul because you say that some of these mailers are misleading. Now, on your Facebook page, you've done a series of videos that explain your position on some of the votes that have been questioned. I don't live in your district, so I haven't seen the mailers for you particularly. I do live in Representative Bill Chumley's, and he too is a member of the Freedom Caucus. I've received these nasty mailers on Representative Chumley, and I know without a doubt that there are exaggerations, misrepresentations of his voting record. So I assume some of the same mailers have been sent to your district as well. Talk with us about some of the issues that you talk about on your videos.
Well, I appreciate being on, and we'd like to do that. I'm a founding member of the Freedom Caucus, also a founding member 6 years ago of the Family Caucus. And splitting out and having a separate Family Caucus didn't cause a whole lot of controversy. It raised some eyebrows. But when the Freedom Caucus was established and we went to court, the Women's Caucus could raise money, the Black Caucus could raise money, the two Democrat and Republican caucuses could, and we were not allowed to do that by state law. And we won that federal case, won the appeal when they appealed it, and it's caused a lot of angst on every separating issue ever since. And these mailers that you just mentioned, we're all getting the same mailers, change the name, change the picture, but they're hammering us on 4 or 5 issues and have been for months. I would figure a good guesstimate's $1.5 million against the Freedom Caucus members or potential Freedom Caucus members that are running. There are 14 of us rerunning for office in the original Freedom Caucus, a couple of members for Congress. And there's about 31 other races with potential Freedom Caucus conservatives in those races. And they're hitting us on things like we're not for the police, we're not for roads and bridges, we're not for clean water, we're not for constitutional Second Amendment rights. And the most egregious two, I guess, one of them even accuses me, although we'll get into the details, but we're not pro-Israel, we're pro-Hamas, which is ridiculous. And then the last one, that we want to execute women who have had abortions.
Yeah.
So you got 4 or 5 really touchy issues, and you described it a little bit too kindly. Where you stretch the truth a little bit, there's no stretch in this. These are absolute falsehoods, and just put it like it is, they're absolute made-up lies.
Yep.
That the records don't bear all this out.
Yep.
And they don't seem to care, because who's going to go back and look all this stuff up? That's why I put some podcast out on my Facebook showing where I voted, pointing to where I voted for the things. Most of them were unanimous votes. The Democrats and Republicans actually agreed on infrastructure, actually agreed on rural internet, actually agreed on increased funding to police officers and resource officers in schools. And I mean, it's just ludicrous that we would have this kind of allegation. And, what are you going to do? They're sending mailers out 10 to 1 to what we're able to fund and do.
Yeah. A lot of money has been spent. I would say that when this is all said and done, we're going to see that record amounts of money have been spent on state house seats. All right, so let's get into some specifics here. And I know just enough about the legislative process to know that on any given bill that eventually passes or one that's defeated, there are a number of votes taken along the way. Procedural votes and just different types of votes. You potentially could vote against an amendment, and that would go on the record, but eventually vote for the bill and be a supporter of the bill. But your opponent could always go back to that one vote where you voted no on an amendment and try to say that you voted against it. That's kind of what they're doing here, right?
That's exactly what they're doing. I'll give you a good example. The first mailer that they hit us with was a bill 3604. It was a really good bill. Representative Bannister from Greenville, it was his bill. It was for taking federal monies, $583 million, and spreading it out into a lot of good areas. Roads, bridges, rural internets, clean water, sewer, resource officers, all kinds of good stuff. And it would be distributed among the counties. Some of the Freedom Caucus members didn't vote for it. Some of us did. I voted for 3604. It went over to the Senate. The Senate attached an amendment that I didn't like, which was to spend $1.3 billion, billion with a B, dollars of your tax money, $300 million of it in actual cold cash with no restrictions on it to build an electric vehicle plant that was first touted to bring 4,000 jobs to South Carolina in Columbia. Now it's down to 400 jobs, and we're not sure it's going to even get off the ground. I voted no against concurring with the Senate amendment. After the House voted to send that bill over to the Senate, I was one of the ones that voted for it. But I did not concur with the Senate amendment. I insisted on the House version. And so my opponent and these dark money people have joined together to tell all my constituents that I voted no against the bill, and it's just absolutely not true. And the record's there, but, my 40,000 people are not going to go back and look that up.
Right.
So then they have to choose where they're going to believe a lie or look at my podcast and let me show them where I voted for 3604, which I did.
Yeah. You said the word or used the term dark money there. Some of the mailers that I have received, they're from organizations like the Palmetto Truth Project, the Palmetto Gun Rights, Americans for Prosperity South Carolina, American Action Fund. And some of these organizations are not even in South Carolina. They're from out of state. How can they spend money like this, and how can they do this and misrepresent what you guys have done?
Well, we tried to figure out who the Palmetto Truth Project has been the most egregious one in this whole thing. They've been sending out mailers for over 15 months. They were, and the Secretary of State had them listed in an address there on Gervais Street in Columbia. We got ready to go pay them a visit. Of course, they weren't there, and that address is all of a sudden got changed to a Democrat lawyer's office in Charleston. So they're dancing around, hiding behind who they really are. We have no way to find out who's the funding behind it. And, it's just, you got all these out-of-state influences trying to affect elections in our districts in South Carolina for money that we don't even know where it's coming from.
Yeah. Give us another example. One of the ones that I've seen the most of concerns abortion, and it would lead you to think that you and others have voted to literally give a person, a mother who has an abortion, to execute her.
Well, first of all, it's the only bill that's been passed is a heartbeat bill, and it specifically, and you'll see the corrected copy that's sent out from the South Carolina Citizens for Life defending us on that. And it's entitled Setting the Record Straight. And what it'll tell you is that bill provided that only the doctors could be charged, no woman who had had an abortion. They've been telling women in our country for 50 years, you can have an abortion. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. So there's no way all of a sudden you can just flip the tables and do such an egregious thing. I haven't heard one single person except for my opponent and this dark money that's telling people that we want to execute women. I can't find one person that's wanting to do that. That bill that they're referencing was a bill that Representative Harris filed. And during the pre-filing, I read one sentence of the bill. It had a little caption and signed on as a co-sponsor, and it said, "Life begins at conception."
Yeah.
I thought that was a great idea. It hasn't had a committee hearing. It hasn't had a vote. It's never had a vote. Nobody's voted for this, and nobody's advocated to give capital punishment to women who've had abortions.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the bill that we passed and the law of the land in South Carolina prohibits prosecuting women. So there again, you can fill the sky full of lies all you want, but you got to sleep at night.
Yep.
I don't see how these people can look in the mirror or go to sleep at night when they do this.
Another misrepresentation for sure. Representative Mike Burns with us this morning. And look, time flies, and I wish we had more time because this is a very complex issue, complicated, and it's an important issue because people have to get it right when they go vote tomorrow. Let me encourage you to go on Facebook and look for Mike Burns for South Carolina House, Mike Burns for South Carolina House, and listen to Representative Burns as he tackles 5 different ones. There's 5 different videos he'll break down for you and give you the truth on how he actually voted. And if you live in another district or if you don't know how to vote or who's going to be on your ballot tomorrow, go to scvotes.org, scvotes.org, and get a sample ballot. Representative Burns, I wish we had more time because, again, this is important, but good luck tomorrow, and thank you for what you do.
Yes, sir. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to be on and be heard, and thank you for the great work you've done for South Carolinians over the years. Thanks a lot, Joy.
Sure thing. Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse are proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself if you're looking for a new appliance to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, Joey at joeyhudson.com. On our guest line this morning, Stuart Jones. He represents the people of District 14 in the South Carolina House of Representatives. He's now seeking the GOP nomination for the 3rd Congressional District of South Carolina. Welcome, Representative Jones. How are you, sir?
Hey, Joey. It's great to be with you.
Let's just jump right in. There are 7 candidates running for this congressional seat. You're the only one with legislative experience. Do you feel that gives you an advantage over the other candidates running?
I do. In this situation, and especially everything that's going on with our federal government, our country is really at an impasse. And we need people in Washington who have a proven record of taking on the federal government and actually winning. And that's what I've done. In many cases in South Carolina, we've been able to have some incredible victories in recent years, against the vaccine mandate. Also fighting for parents, when they came after parents, calling them domestic terrorists. We stood up and left the National School Board Association and fighting all these woke ideas and so forth at the local level and state level. We've had some incredible victories. So I want to take that to Washington and try to save our country.
Yep. What are 3 accomplishments that you would say you're most proud of from your service in the South Carolina House?
Yeah, number one, you know me, Joey, I am a big pro-life advocate. And so the heartbeat bill was probably the biggest accomplishment that we got through, both chambers. And that took a lot of work. I mean, that took, passing it multiple times in the House before we could get the Senate to even take it up. There's also constitutional carry was a major achievement as well. I would say that was something that and the heartbeat bill specifically were two things that I campaigned on 5 years ago and resonated with almost every constituent. And so, those two were major accomplishments. I would say third was just standing up to the federal government in general. And nobody knew COVID was going to happen. But passing the bill to stop the Biden vaccine mandate in South Carolina was just that was a monumental achievement because we had to go into a special session to do that. So we weren't even in session when Biden passed those executive orders. And so I'd say those are three major accomplishments.
Yeah. Let's talk for a minute about spending. You guys in Columbia have done, I think, a pretty good job of managing my tax dollars in South Carolina. It's a different story when we look at the federal level, and I'm a bit older than you are. And I can remember a time, Representative Jones, if you had a candidate running for Congress, you always heard at least during one time during their stump speech, they would talk about balancing the budget. I don't hear that a lot these days. Balancing the budget was once seen to be a major issue in any congressional race, and you just don't hear that. Do you believe that it's realistic to think that we can once again balance the federal budget?
I'm optimistic about it, Joey, and I'll tell you why. What you said, about the state level, for example, we've balanced the budget every year in the state of South Carolina. And there's spending in there that you don't agree with, of course, and you're able to vote against that waste and any money going to woke universities, which I've always voted against. And we've been able to stop a lot of that in our state level. So I want to take that to Washington, and this is how detached some people in government. There was a legislator, and this was at the state level, at the podium talking about why he wanted to spend even more money during the recent budget discussions. And somebody asked him, sir, where do you believe this money comes from? Where do you believe these tax dollars come from? And his response, he said, they come from our budget. And so there's this sense, people in government have no understanding of sound money economics and of real money, real value, and where that comes from. And so we've got to restore that at the federal level. Now, to simplify all this, the federal government can balance their budget in 5 years, and all they've got to do is cut 6 cents from every dollar that's spent at the federal level. That can come from things like all this money that we've sent overseas to Ukraine, for example. There's a lot of waste in there right now. We're giving money to NGOs from the federal level that's going to welfare for illegal aliens. Yeah. And so that's low-hanging fruit. I'm going to go after that spending first. And then we've got to look at, of course, reforming things like, Social Security and so forth. I'm never going to vote for anything that takes a dime from somebody who's put money into that. I want to ensure that everybody who's put money into those programs gets their money back. But we've got to come up with a plan moving forward, for people who want to opt out and so forth, who want to control their own money. So that's some of the ways we can look at cutting those funds. Balancing the federal budget in 5 years, we can do it, and then we can go after the debt. The debt commission is one way that we can start to look at how to tackle this almost $35 trillion in debt. So, but we've got to do it, because if we don't, I tell people very often, if we just continue on the path that we're currently on, it is going to be catastrophic. The dollar is going to collapse. We're going to see even more inflation, hyperinflation, to the point to where people are going to lose everything they've got. And I don't want that to happen.
Yep. On our guest line today, Representative Stuart Jones running for the 3rd Congressional District. If you'd like additional information on Representative Jones, just go to votestuartjones.com, votestuartjones.com. Of course, the primary, Tuesday, June the 11th, you need to vote. You have already missed early voting, so plan to vote tomorrow, Tuesday, June the 11th, in this very important primary. The 3rd Congressional District, it's a pretty big district geographically. As you've traveled around the district, what are some of the main issues that you've heard voters talking about and asking you questions about?
Yeah, I would say number one is securing our border first and foremost. That's something that has personally affected me, and it's the main reason that I'm running, seeking this office. My goddaughter, Maddie Hines, was killed by an illegal last year. And that kind of that fired me up to do something about this. And so, I've been to the border also, Joey, and I've seen firsthand what's going on and the handouts that are going on at the border via the federal government. And so that's number one. I think people want to see us secure our country. We've got to cut off the incentive program. So we got to finish the wall, cut off all the welfare for illegals, and then we got to work with local law enforcement, which is so important. It's something that I saw firsthand. Our local law enforcement is often penalized, and their hands are tied by the federal government. So I'm going to ensure the federal government works with our sheriffs, works with local law enforcement, and not against them.
Yep.
To secure our border. And so that's the number one issue. I think balancing the budget and going after this inflation, restoring value in the dollar, that's number two. And then number three, I would say the issue that resonates is just defending liberty and restoring our Constitution.
Yep. Stuart Jones, thank you, sir. I appreciate your time today. Again, if you need additional information, just go to votestuartjones.com and plan to vote tomorrow. Appreciate your time today. Good luck to you tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Joey. Have a great day.
You too. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined our mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Just click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, find me on YouTube. Be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on my YouTube channel. Just search for Joey Hudson. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. Be sure and forward this edition of Just the Truth to some friends. Just click on the share button. Send it to a few of your contacts, because if we're going to build our community and we're going to win in the June primaries, and if we're going to win in November especially, we got to build an army of conservatives. The way we beat Joe Biden is through educating people, and no better way than encouraging them to listen to Just the Truth. Hey, keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your emails always welcome as well. Joey@joeyhudson.com. Don't forget to take advantage of the MyPillow special, $25 for the My Towels 6-piece